Welcome back to Fox Carolina Tailgate, joined by Patrick Sapp. I want to get into a little bit of this transfer portal. And again, my friendly reminder that we recorded this on Thursday, so that those names will continue to pile up. And you can stick with us on foxcarolina.com. We'll continue to update as those players make their decisions. But we're starting to see those guys enter the transfer portal. And you mentioned Bo Collins in the last segment. And I want to touch on those sort of decisions that these players make. Players that were starters and were playing a lot,
right,
and had the opportunities, right? Because traditionally the transfer portal was guys that weren't being utilized. It was traditionally, and as we've seen this progression of it, do you think Bo, because the transfer portal gets a lot of flack for it's, going to get a bigger paycheck, that it's all about the NIL. Are these those kinds of decisions? And not saying it can't have a piece of it,
right,
but is that what this is, or are these other decisions?
Well, I think, it's different for everybody. But I think as a starter, when you transfer, you definitely have more leverage than somebody that hadn't played much, right? That you may be a big recruit, but you hadn't got on the field yet and you're transferring. So in Bo Collins' situation, I understand it. This poor guy's been hurt every season. And so it's almost like it's a black cloud over him for Clemson. Even though he's been in that starting role, he's not played. And so for him, if I was his dad or family, I would say, man, go get a fresh start. Yeah. Just go somewhere and get a fresh start. But years ago, it might have been 2 or 3 years ago, where I saw a number of Alabama players that were starters left the program. It's like, what happened? It was the first time that you kind of saw that happening with the portal. And that's one indication to me that when you've been in a winning program, you won a national championship, you've done these things, it's almost like, what else is it for me to do? Mm-hmm. And also, it lets you know that people are recruiting your roster. Other schools are recruiting your starters. And you are seeing some guys leave because of money and just a fresh and new opportunity.
Speaking of new opportunities, I want to venture out to Columbia, where Juice Wells came out last week and said, I'm not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. And then announced this week he's in the transfer portal.
Yes.
A little bit of sympathy for the broken hearts and gut punch. Why come out and say anything? And what changes? Because you mentioned guys are constantly being recruited. So what changed?
Well, I
know you don't know personally,
right.
but
this is an assumption, being a former player, being around it. I would say being asked that question ahead of time, somebody kind of already heard or knew something, right? That he may be transferring.
Yeah, we get inklings.
Yeah, and so his reaction was deny it, right? Because you still have a game, you're still up, this thing's still happening. But you know what is happening. You don't make that decision in a week.
Right.
So he all in well knew he was already leaving the program. For South Carolina, it definitely hurts. It hurts. You're losing your quarterback. You're losing your skill guy. Yeah, and so it's almost like you got to start over.
And those two are entering the draft. Those two are leaving. Leggett and Spencer Rattler are both entering their names into the NFL draft. So that's not a transfer situation. But that's a lot of pieces for an already
high production guys.
And for a team that was already uncomfortably young for where the expectations are in Columbia.
Right. And so I think you will see them try to replace with the portal.
That is the good news. And I think however you feel about the transfer portal, the benefit is we saw teams this year have an impact with the transfer portal. I don't think that impact was sustainable for a lot of teams.
It is not.
And I don't even think it was sustainable throughout the season for a lot of these teams, let alone long term. But it doesn't mean that South Carolina has their 2024 season is a total wash because they're completely rebuilding. It's not that sort of situation anymore in college football.
Well, and that's why I've always stood by the fact of you can't build a program through the portal. Everybody jumped on Clemson all year. Coach Sweeney won't use the portal. And I've always maintained that the portal for situations where you need to pick up guys at certain positions to fill certain gaps, to go out and get that. Not to go and just sign 20 guys from the portal and all of a sudden your team is better. Because everybody comes with some baggage. Everybody comes with some things that you don't quite know if they're going to fit your culture. So, yeah, he's proven he could play at this level of football, but how is he as a teammate? How is he in the culture? How is he when he faces disappointment and he can't get things that he want to get? And so you still have to deal with all those realities.
Can we also touch on briefly that DJ is in the transfer portal? That DJ, well, now his coach went to Michigan State, so there's speculation that that's where he's heading, but he's on the move again, which I'm a big DJ fan. I think he is a great young man, so I'm like, go do it, go be great. But are you surprised at all that he's doing another? I mean, this guy's got an MLB draft selection underneath his belt. You know, certainly put together a great campaign that he was going to get attention in the NFL draft.
You know, Bo Nix moved around and he made a home, and you know, talk about Heisman implications and possibilities. I think this is a guy that, you know, Oregon State felt right for him because of the head coach and that opportunity. And I think him leaving, I think he's connected to that guy. So you made that point earlier.
The relationships.
Yeah, that it's highly possible we will see him at Michigan State.
And especially not knowing what the future of the Pac-12 is.
Right.
And what they're even going to, as
how
things just disintegrate around them. So I think there's credit and understanding in that regard. But did you think he would go to the NFL? That he would enter the draft? Okay.
I don't think he would.
Okay.
I don't think that's wise for him. I think he needs more body of work on the positive side of things. And, yeah, he had a great season this year, but it's one season. And so I think he can go. And if he can do it twice, then I think you will see his draft stock really rise.
What about Spencer Rattler in the draft? What do you think it looks like for him right now? Obviously a tough season, but everybody kind of got on board with this narrative that I started asking about back in SEC media days, just to not my own horn, that he's a great leader. He's really started to show what a leader he can be.
Right.
And gosh, after this year in the NFL, they need quarterbacks, and we've seen what tough times can do.
Well, I would say this. In my opinion, and I say this often, that the quarterback position is probably the hardest position to evaluate from a pro team standpoint because college football is played so different, even though there's been some changes in the NFL.
Right.
But it is so different than how guys play in college. And the biggest aspect and the biggest thing that you have to have as a quarterback in pro football is the mental side of it, the mental toughness, being able to deal with high stress. And it's hard to evaluate that with college football. So you say Spencer Rattler. I know I was critical of him all year. Now I have to agree that he kind of won me over a little bit. He played the game the right way. Even through the adversity, I still saw him make plays, make throws that I think would translate for him. So I think he's going to be a solid draft pick. Now, how he does in the pros, I don't know. Right. But I think for the stress that he's been under this year, you can probably evaluate him better than some of the other guys that people probably have in front of him.
All right, well, we'll come back for some final thoughts after this break.